So this is my mass fatality project, and I did Hurricane Katrina. So what happened during Hurricane Katrina? On August of 2005, Hurricane Katrina struck U.S. shores and was responsible for deaths in at least 7 different states. The estimated number of those deaths is around 1,800, which makes Hurricane Katrina one of the deadliest hurricanes in U.S. history. The places primarily affected include Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. So, the immediate response. The immediate response from local authorities, such as mayors, and towns, and states, and governors, were pretty well and immediate. However, the responses from federal authorities were not that well. FEMA's poor response to this incident is later criticized, and the director is forced to resign because of how bad it was. So the major impacts to the community. So the major impacts to the community involve destruction of homes and property, of course, because it's a hurricane, from winds and rains. But there was also violence, panic in the shelters due to a lack of resource provisions, and that's kind of FEMA's fault. There's also the canals were destroyed from the hurricane, which led to major flooding throughout the cities and made it harder for evacuations. Shelters were damaged, the Superdome, but there was also health concerns involving the trailers that they gave out after the whole hurricane ended, and that was a form of aid because they had formaldehyde inside of the trailers, and people were getting sick from it. There was also mass migration to other states. So the impact this had on local first responders was a lot of people, first responders, were so overwhelmed that they just left. And of course they had things to worry about, like their families and stuff, but they abandoned their posts, their positions. And this exacerbated the problem and created more issues for the other first responders that stayed. And so they were left dealing with that for a lot longer, years. DMORT themselves state that they had personnel deployed in areas affected by Hurricane Katrina for at least a year. So the external resources for funeral directors included help from medical and forensic experts across the country, because a lot of people wanted to come in and help after what happened, but also numerous volunteer groups, including local and national people. The National Guard and other military units also helped with logistics, and so did FEMA. So those were the external resources for the funeral directors. So the effects that Hurricane Katrina had on local funeral directors kept them very busy, but unfortunately it left a lot of them without homes and businesses. So this disaster displaced a lot of them, and as first responders they needed to prioritize other people and put them first, give them aid first, and not worry about their own relief first. So the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina led to insurance payments for victims being delayed because everybody wanted to file their insurance because of all the destruction. Nobody could afford it. Schools and homes were not available. like school was not in for months, and nobody had shelters for months. But they were replaced with trailers when they did come back, and some of which are still being used today. Same trailers with formaldehyde in them. A lot of the survivors from the hurricane that were evacuated to Texas still live there today. Like, they have their own community. And many of the people who lost homes and workplaces still haven't fully recovered. So, review. Hurricane Katrina occurred in August of 2005 and mainly affected Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, with a total of about 1,800 deaths occurring, and Hurricane Katrina, which makes Hurricane Katrina one of the deadliest hurricanes in U.S. history. First responders and funeral directors were also severely affected, and many of the survivors of this disaster are still alive today and struggle with what they went through. These are my citations, and thank you for tuning in.